much did you know about me before you wrote that story?
Your story is just literally every line. I mean, seriously.
And just seeing that happen again in your story, well, that's just, that can't be a coincidence, obviously.
That's fantastic. Wow.
So there's some pieces of that story that are quite profound and are right in reality.
Shariah said, I want my light to shine, Jasmine. Jasmine kissed Shariah's forehead and said, glow. Let your glory shine. You're worthy, Shariah. Therefore, Shariah turned away from her magical mentor and faced the dark forest before her.
Jurri, it's just incredible. It's so Holy Spirit inspired. And that's why it moves me to tears, because I just felt like he literally spoke to you. He literally spoke to you about me.
Want to know what story you're in? Discover your own tale in books written about you. Imagine a library in heaven that contains books with stories written about you and me. These stories could be in any genre, from fantasy, mystery, action-adventure, or romance. Do you want to know what story you're in?
I love that you are using what you have in a powerful way to reach people that's outside of the box.
Yeah.
You're using your skill set to lower the wall that would keep people from wanting to receive, and you're releasing what you have in a way that can be received by someone who doesn't yet know the love of God.
Yeah.
And I really commend you for that. It is a forerunning that you are doing.
Thank you.
You're pioneering it.
Yeah.
A couple people text me, what does this mean, when I sent them the link.
Right.
I've never heard of this before. That's right, because I think Jurri's the only one doing it. And I really commend you for it.
Thank you. Marcia and Edwin, thank you.
Order a personalized, revelatory, unique story to discover the glory inside your heart. Peer into the pages of the Father. Become a legend and discover your identity and destiny here in Legends of the Wind. Click the link, order now.
And hello and welcome to the Legends of the Wind podcast. I'm Jurri Schenck. Thank you for joining with us tonight. I'm super stoked about tonight's story. Our guest is Jonathan Ahrens, and he is a returning guest. This is his second story tonight, titled Last Minute. And there's quite a story to tell from my end about getting this legend written last night. So I'll get into that in a moment. But now, have you ever wondered what story you're in? Have you ever wondered who you are on your hero's journey? And what is your destiny? What is your identity? See, the stories here at Legends of the Wind can provide answers to those deep, heartfelt questions. And in the prophetic storytelling, they contain hidden treasures that reveal those ideas into your life. And they help you and encourage you and strengthen you. So if you haven't done this already, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the like button and hit the bell notification to get aware of future broadcasts? Thank you so much. Now, tonight's question for the show is, what is your test? I want you to be thinking about that. And so Jonathan's story is about a test. So what about last week's show? Last Monday was phenomenal. We had our guest, Dr. Nick Goff, who is a pastor from North Carolina, and his story was called Owls Among Us. And it was a message or a parable for him and his ministry. And I didn't find out until the next day how spot on it was, and a very encouraging word for his situation. And I tell you what, it was a huge honor for God to trust me to speak into his life and into his ministry in his story. So I would highly recommend that you take the time a little bit later and watch that broadcast of Owls Among Us with Dr. Nick Goff. Now, we still have our Christmas special going on until the end of this month, December 31st. And we have a buy one, get one free prophetic story. One story typically is the full price is $250. That takes 3 hours of my time and talent to put something together for you. And right now we're doing buy one, get one free for $145. So if you are interested in having your own prophetic story and being on the show, or not, we can work with you if you don't want to appear. You can go to the link below, and it's at legendsofthewind.com, and go to the store and look for Become a Legend. Now, If you want to gift that second story to someone else, make sure you put in the additional information, their name and email address, and let us know who they are, and we can reach out to them. Now, Alisha, my wife, also does illustrated book covers for their own prophetic stories. This is for our friend Ricky and our friend Linda, and these are an amazing designs and illustrations for their own keepsakes of their story. So if you want to get that as well, it's in our store. Don't forget our book, Legends of the Wind, Volume 1. This contains 20 prophetic stories that are full of rich, entertaining, and insightful parables. We also have an audiobook version as well, and that's over 3.5 hours of music and sound design along with my storytelling that lets you get sucked into those worlds in the theater of the mind. I highly recommend it. Now, if you do want to order a story, you would sign a release and also a contract so we can publish your story. And that way we can let you enjoy becoming a legend. Now, we'd like to introduce our guest. This is a returning guest, and his name is Jonathan Ahrens. So, Jonathan, I'm bringing you on right now. Let's see here. Is that key going to work or not? Here we go. Hey, man.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
So you're back. Wow, this is amazing. Your mom was on a couple weeks ago. It's a whole family affair.
Not even a pinch. There's 11 of us kids. So.
Oh, that's right. There's a lot of you. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool. So I know that you gifted that prophetic story for your mom. So thank you very much for supporting us and letting us bless her with a story. Why did you request a second story for yourself?
I had fun doing the first one, and I can tell from the first story, Oceans Among Us, there's still so much revelation in it that I can receive and that I've not even begun to tap into yet. And it's just fun.
Oh, good.
Like storytelling is fun, but to have a story told with you in it, it's like even more exhilarating because you can just close your eyes and immerse yourself into that story, you know.
Wow, that's fantastically described. Wow, that's great. Wow. Well, I thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to give you another prophetic story. This is a beautiful time. Now, I don't really know much about your background other than what happened back in the summertime, and so I don't really fully know your ins and outs of life. And I want you to know, Jonathan, and also the audience, that your story today is called Last Minute, and it came at the last minute. So I kind of briefly explain to you just before we went on the air, and I'll tell the audience what happened. So what I hope to have happen when I get a prophetic story for a Monday night show is that I hopefully start receiving the story's title and image a few days prior. And the reason I like that is because I have to see if it sticks. You know, like if it just won't go away, then I'll okay, that could be the story. And so I wasn't getting it for days. And then last night I was watching a finale show, one of Alisha's favorite Korean dramas. And it was an 1.5-hour show, and I watched it, and I'm hoping to get tired because I like getting tired to write the stories because I'm not in the way of getting a story. I'm so exhausted, I just write what I hear and see. And at the end of the show, Alicia's like, well, what's the title? And I'm like, I have no idea. And she's like, you have to write it tonight. Tomorrow's the show. I'm like, I know. And I'm like, so I went down to our studio, got the laptop, and I'm like, it's the last minute, you know? So I write down last minute, and the story flowed. Now, I want you, Jonathan, and the audience to know that this story is a bit spooky, okay? So there's some things in it that may alarm people. I don't go out of my way to be sensational or to do anything to cause fear. But I want you to be aware that that's the nature of this story. Also, it contains other people in the story that you may know in your life, like family members. I don't know your family. I don't know who they are, and I'm not going out of my way to do anything to harm anybody. So just so you know, that's my caveat for the show. Now, Just so you remember, Jonathan, and also for our audience, is that these stories are meant to be understood symbolically, right? You remember that, right? Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that these are not literal stories, even though they may feel literal. After our conversation, after I finish reading the story, there's a conversation, which is our time of interpretation, and then we go out of our way to see if we can discover the application to them. Now, Jonathan, you have a power. You have a choice. You can say, yes, I accept this story, or no, I do not. And you also may say, I need time to process it, right? And so there may be things that you identify. So just so you know, that's how we handle prophetic stories. Okay? Does it make sense?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So do you know what time it is?
It's story time.
Yes. So before we get into it, I want to acknowledge the people in the chat. Jen Wheeler, our faithful friend. Hello. Thank you for your Christmas card. It was beautiful. We have to talk soon. And then Jonathan, Alisha, and Kylie say hello to you and Jen. And then my mom's here, Gail. Thank you. So here we go, everybody. Now, the story's titled Last Minute. Time was running short for Jonathan. His bus was late, and he had to get to class, or else. His final exam was here, and in order for him to graduate, this was the last opportunity he had, because everything was on the line to finish his degree. If he didn't, then the dream job he was waiting for would never happen. Although he was an intelligent man and a hard worker, procrastination would often come up. The bus he needed was the last leg of this journey. As an engineering student, studying was quite difficult, especially advanced math. Building bridges and skyscrapers were his dreams, but now his sight was even higher. Babylon's tower? Are you crazy? Asked his sister. You want to build what? It's not what you think, replied Jonathan as he stared at the Led Zeppelin poster on the wall. I want to go there. Where? What the hell are you talking about? It's not hell, sis. It's here. Jonathan placed his hand on his chest. Jonathan's sister could not understand. She looked at him with utter bewilderment and horror. Talk about fairy tales, John. No one will believe you. I don't. This is nuts. She went to his bedroom door and opened it. You think you know too much, John. You know nothing. And out she went. Jonathan felt overwhelmed by the lack of understanding. His family was peculiar, but he was the black sheep in his community. The test was here. Jonathan pulled out his pencils and scraps of blank paper. The proctor walked up the aisles in the lecture hall and placed each copy of the test on the students' desks. You have 1 hour to complete the exam. If you finish early, you may leave, but there is to be no talking. All cell phones and electronic devices must be turned off. If anyone needs assistance, please raise your hand and I will come to you. If you are caught cheating or speaking to another student, you will be immediately dismissed. Now, take your pencils and unseal the test. You may begin. Jonathan ripped open the seal and dove into the test. His mind raced, and with scribbles and calculations, he madly wrote away his answers. All the work and studying he did over the past 4 years brought him to this day. Jonathan's pencil was now dull, and he turned to the last page and marked his answers. There were still 15 minutes left. Jonathan was alarmed that he'd finished so quickly. He flipped through all of his work and double-checked his answers. To his surprise, he felt confident and sighed a deep breath of relief. He finished and left the lecture hall. Outside were some of his friends drinking coffee at the picnic tables. They asked, "How did it go?" "Good, I hope," replied Jonathan. One of his buddies asked, "Hey, we're going to a party tonight. Want to join us?" "Sure," smiled Jonathan. "Who's going?" "Everyone, dude. It's finals," they exclaimed. The frat's house was full of students. Everyone was either drinking and talking or talking and drinking. Jonathan made his way through the front door and went upstairs to find his friends. In one bedroom, there were a bunch of other guys and girls Jonathan never met before. One man was strange looking and had some tattoos on his face with satanic and gang symbols on them. This man's name was Tyler. Jonathan didn't like the vibe of the room. Tyler stood to his feet and smiled at Jonathan, placing both hands on his shoulders. "Hey, man, great to see you. I hear your test was quite difficult. How do you feel?" Jonathan asked his friend sitting on the couch. "Who is he?" "My name's Tyler. This is my house. I hear you want to build a stairway to heaven. I can help you get there." Tyler smiled in the most creepy way possible. Jonathan looked Tyler over and felt even more uncomfortable. "How?" "With this," said Tyler as he opened up his palm and showed it to Jonathan. In Tyler's palm was a flat circle tablet with a K labeled on it. "I don't do drugs, man," said Jonathan as he turned to leave the room. This comment offended Tyler, and he spoke in another strange, low-toned voice. "Wait, Jonathan." Something powerful and evil filled the room. Jonathan's hair on his neck stood up. He turned around to face Tyler. Tyler's eyes seemed to glow red, and his pupils expanded open. "I told you I can help you." Jonathan's whole body shook with fear. He just met this man in the house, and now his true test was at hand. "I don't want your help." "Where's your heaven, Jonathan? Do you think you can get there? It must be way high in the sky," said Tyler, who lifted his eyes to the ceiling. "You must think you're a holy man." Tyler then looked straight at Jonathan. "Don't you?" Jonathan processed the entire scene. His friends all led him to this trap at Tyler's house. Jonathan realized his passion may have gotten him into trouble. Maybe his loose lips might sink his own ship. Tyler walked around Jonathan with a smile and mocked him as he spoke. "I am fond of you, Jonathan. Quite fond. I enjoy your hard work. You're a brilliant student. But I am your teacher tonight." Tyler returned to face Jonathan, grinning. "Just let me take you where you want to go." Fire and anger rose in Jonathan's heart. "Hell no!" The whole house shook with a tremor. Some of the books on the bookshelves fell down. The glass in the windows rattled. Tyler looked at the energy and showed concern. Jonathan gripped his fists tight and held them to his side. Something powerful shined out light out of his fingers. Tyler returned to his cocky ways and laughed. "This doesn't scare me." Tyler opened up his hand palm again with a tablet that said K on it. Red light shined from within the tablet, and a vertical beam of light shot up into the ceiling, and also from the back of Tyler's hand to the ground. "It's time to dance," said Tyler. Jonathan opened his fists and pushed up his hands out toward Tyler. White light and energy shot out of them and hit Tyler. The beast of the man groaned in pain. Tyler gripped his hand, and the glowing red beam of light spun around like a staff in his hands. What happened next, only Jonathan's friends can describe. The flashes of light and energy and the powers of light and darkness all spun around in the room, for the battle was great. Jonathan released his power over the evil that Tyler contained. It was a clash of titans. They waged war. Jonathan grew in strength and confidence, but Tyler kept stopping his flow. Inside Jonathan's heart, he heard the words, "We do not battle as the world does, against flesh and blood, but against powers of darkness. Release the kingdom within you." Tyler's eyes were dark as the two foes gripped each other's bodies. Jonathan could hear Tyler's true heart from deep within. It was crying for help and agony. Jonathan grabbed Tyler's shoulders and declared, "I hear you! I hear your heart! Tyler, are you there?" Tyler's face changed from utter rage and passion to sorrow and fright. He cried out, "Save me!" The evil spirit within Tyler's body returned and said, "You cannot have him. We made a deal." Jonathan stood firm and had Tyler stand in front of him. Jonathan said with a determined voice, "I heard his cry. Release him." "We had a deal. He's mine. I break off all deals. He is a child of the Creator. He is free. Loose him and leave." The evil spirit within Tyler's body shook and cried out, "He made a deal with me. I give him power." Jonathan said, "There is no other power but the kingdom of light. Come out of him." Tyler's body shook and he dropped to his knees. Jonathan took his hands and held them over Tyler's head. A bright light shined out of them, and a soft glow enveloped Tyler's body. Suddenly, Tyler collapsed and he spoke, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was trying to save my sister. Immediately, peace filled the room. The evil presence was gone, and the room became brighter. Tyler looked up with a different expression. He was calm and his normal self. The tattoos on his face dissolved away into his skin. Tyler smiled with surrender, and he hugged Jonathan's waist. Jonathan lifted Tyler to his feet and said, "Heaven came down today for you." The disturbance that occurred in the room had frozen all the students in fear. They could not believe their eyes at what had happened. But as soon as Tyler transformed, they shouted in delight and could not stop speaking about how amazing the entire battle was. One girl ran up to Jonathan and cried out, "You healed him! I saw his eyes! I saw the light! The darkness is gone! How did you do this?" All Jonathan did was pull Tyler into his chest and gave him an enormous hug, patting him on the back. That night was something Jonathan never forget. Everyone thought he was crazy for wanting to build a stairway to heaven, but today he realized that heaven was in his heart. All he needed to do was to release it. As Jonathan walked away from the party that night, he heard a small, still voice inside say, "The door is open. Explore. Enjoy all of it. I am the Spirit of love. Shine my light all around." Inceptio. And here's that moment, Jonathan, where you're drinking from the fire hose and we have to talk. So I know that this story is pretty weighty. I get that. I read it to Alisha last night and she's like, wow, you know. Now, I don't know your life, right? You've not talked to me about anything prior to writing this story, correct?
Correct.
So, can you help me out here? What's resonating with you about your story?
Well, at the beginning of the story, the first thing I kind of wrote down was procrastination. And in college, and even now, I do still have a problem with procrastination. And
Okay.
I am a hard worker. So as far as the story goes, me being a hard worker and the fact that procrastination can get the better of me are true.
Okay.
My mom always thought I should go into engineering.
Oh, really?
or something like that.
Okay.
But also, I've had trouble with advanced mathematics, which was in the story as well. And you, again, for the audience, you wrote this story way after. Like, I've never told anyone that I had trouble with advanced mathematics.
Wow.
So you wouldn't know, and you had no idea that my mom wanted me to be an engineer or go for engineering or anything like that either.
Wow.
So, and then being a black sheep of the family, that I've always considered myself more of a lone wolf as far as my family goes, but black sheep is kind of a similar idea in that you're still alone and isolated and kind of excluded, I guess is a good word, from certain activities that really I wanted to be a part of, but just felt left out, kind of.
Okay.
And the party, as far as being, I'm kind of giving you a fire hose right back as far as my notes go.
That's fine.
But as far as being invited to a party, in college, I was not invited to parties, really. I was kind of a black sheep in college as well, just because of social awkwardness, which for the most part it has worn off due to confidence in who I am, confidence of personhood, I guess, identity. Loose lips getting me in trouble to an extent that has happened. And then the friends leading me into a trap, essentially, at the frat house.
Yeah.
I would say the possibility of that occurring has been extremely high in the past. in that because I was a black sheep, I would be more open to, I guess, the wrong kinds of friends and not being as careful in where they're going. I'm following kind of thing. And even some of the friends that I've had in the past that have led me in that direction, I don't think it was purposeful, intentional, as far as leading me into that. It was just their lifestyle. So my following them essentially led me to that area, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And then hearing the voice coming from my heart. One of them was, "We do not battle as the world does,
Mm-hmm.
but against powers of darkness." And I had a dream, if I can share this.
Okay.
I'm not going to share the entire dream, but it did involve a Satanist and a satanic priest. And it was in the setting was an old 1800s library. And near the end, the voice from my heart said the door was open.
That's right here.
Yeah.
At the end. Wow.
Yeah. And in the dream, in this dream, I could hear, I was stuck in this dream in this library from the Satanist and the satanic priest.
Okay.
And I could hear from within me, "Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world," which is also scripture.
Right.
And also in the dream, right before that, one of the Satanists goes to a door, or it gets between me and the door. And then in the story you just gave me, it's the door is open, and I can walk through it to go explore and stuff.
So the story is echoing your experiences already in your dream life. Wow. Well, the fact that the phrase "the door is open" has same thing. That's amazing. You do know that I believe that the story is talking about the door to heaven. You know that, right?
Yes.
Yes. And so I actually forgot to look up the meaning of the name of Tyler. If anybody's in the chat can help me out, can you do a little Google search and look up the meaning of the name of Tyler? But I think that your story is dealing with being misunderstood and being threatened by the enemy, and yet you're overcoming to help people. I mean, what do you think about that?
I do feel like I'm overcoming. As far as, so in the Bible, if I can bring it into it, it says that those who are disciples of Christ will experience persecution as Christ experienced persecution. And it was either this morning or yesterday morning.
Mm-hmm.
I was just having a conversation with God. I was like, I don't feel like I'm being persecuted like a disciple of you would be persecuted. And hearing this story kind of puts that into context, in that persecution doesn't always look like torture or being whipped at a post or even slander from everybody around you kind of thing. It can, a lot of times it'll come from the person, like people that you really care about the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. A lot of the story about the college aspect correlates with my real life experience in college. And then as the story proceeds at the party, it's more what I'm experiencing in the spiritual side of things.
Okay. Wow. Oh,
So-
I just noticed Alisha has looked up Tyler, an occupational name for a house builder, one who lays tiles or bricks. In the Bible, Tyler means brick or tile layer maker. Interesting.
Wow.
So in dream language, these prophetic stories, you look at the function of things and the meaning of things, not the literal form of things. You understand that, right? So Tyler it's like a hitting a brick wall. It's like hitting a brick wall that's opposing you. So Jonathan, do you feel that you've been butting heads with brick walls in your life with your journey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Specifically concerning wanting to enter the heavenly realm, whether it's like visions or just visiting heaven.
Ah,
You
that's
know,
good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That specifically, but even the natural.
People say that the heavens are brass. Like when you pray, you feel like your prayers are hitting the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
So that makes it even more meaningful as a story. Wow. Mike adds to it. Hannah Garrick says, hello. Hey, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
Mike says, here's one meaning. The name Tyler is of Old French origin from the word, I can't pronounce it's French, but meaning Tyler. And then Jen Wheeler says, another meaning was doorkeeper of an inn or tavern. Okay. Wow. So I like the idea of you hitting the brick wall. So like the enemy comes against you like a brick wall. It's building opposition, a hindrance, piling up against you, right?
Yeah.
I have found in my own life, when I feel like I'm hitting a wall spiritually, is I have to go back and remember who he is, who I am, and to realize that it's kind of like being stuck in the matrix where you may feel like you're not making any effect or making a connection, but it's an illusion. And you are connecting to Father God or to Jesus. You are making that impact. And so it's almost like what you said earlier today about being deceived. It's like if you're deceived, my prayers aren't work, I'm ineffective, or I'm not connecting. But at some point there is a breakthrough, right? There is some sort of connection being made. So I would say that this story is very encouraging to you. What else do you think about it, John? Anything that you haven't unpacked yet?
I don't remember that last portion of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Could you possibly read that again?
At what point?
I think the point where the voice coming from my heart is speaking the last time.
Okay.
The full last phrase that was coming from my heart, I think.
Okay. Let's see.
Which included the door is open.
Yeah. I'll back up a little bit. That night was something Jonathan never forgot. Everyone thought he was crazy for wanting to build a stairway to heaven. But today he realized that heaven was in his heart. All he needed to do was release it. As Jonathan walked away from the party that night, he heard a small, still voice inside say, "The door is open. Explore. Enjoy all of it. I am the spirit of love. Shine my light all around." Wow.
What the thing that immediately kind of came to mind was Jonathan never forgot. And that's almost word for word what was said in my last story too.
Really?
I don't remember if you remember in my last story, Oceans Among Us, I got
Yeah.
hit, or the Jonathan, the character in the story,
Right.
got hit by a softball. And then at the end of the story, it says he never forgot his encounter with the cherubim or the cherub or whatever it was. And then here it says he never forgot what occurred in that room. And yeah.
Wow.
So
So let me ask you this, 'cause I can't fully remember all the details of your previous story, but can you help me and the audience listen to your heart? How do you think your previous story and this story work together?
it's kind of hard to explain.
Okay.
Um, I don't really know how to create almost physical connections between the two. Like it all makes sense in my mind,
Yes.
but it's hard to like sometimes like a picture is literally worth 1,000 words
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
more, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes many more, and you can't find the number of words required to connect
Wow.
things sometimes.
I have a thought.
Um,
You don't mind? So, if I remember, your previous story was about you having experiences in the angelic, in the heavenly places, right?
mhm.
That story is like a promise to you, right? That's
Yes.
your destination. This story deals with the opposition to getting there.
Yeah.
It almost deals like it's like the what they call a contradiction. So anytime a prophetic word is given, whether at church or whatever or dream, God gives you a promise.
It's
And
almost like a prequel. This one's almost like a prequel to the last story, if that makes
well,
sense. Chronologically.
chronologically, yes,
Yeah.
but when there's a word of a promise given, the opposite always shows up and comes against
Yeah.
you. And so I think that looking at it chronologically is form versus function. I think that you need to look at this from a functional point of view. I think your story, today's story, is dealing with the contradiction. You know, you said, I'm just figuratively saying, you want to go to the heavenly places. You want to experience those things. You want to see that stuff happen. Now you have the deal with the opposition against it, the friction. And that comes from Tyler, who builds a brick wall, right? And who blocks your way. And I think that the encouraging thing is that you don't have to try to get there. It's here already. The Bible says that the kingdom is within you. You don't have to try to go up and get to it. You don't try to go out in outer space to the Milky Way or to the planets. It's in your heart. How does that distinction touch you? How does that impact your heart? What do you think?
My first thought kind of is that you can't build the stairway to heaven. It's impossible because the stairway is already living. It's already been given. Jesus is
There
the
you go.
stairway.
Okay.
Because Jesus, was it Philip he told that he would see angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man? And
Right.
then was it Jacob
Yep.
that had that dream in Genesis 28? And so it's like kind of puts a whole new meaning on it, you know? Because it's
Uh-huh.
like I'm in the dream. It seems like I'm trying to build this relationship
But
with
you already have it.
with exactly.
That's the thing is like we often are praying for things as if we
That
don't
we
have
already
them, but
have.
we already have them. God, God, let me know
It's
your
like
love. Oh, I already have it. Yeah. That's good. Jenny
yeah,
says God is opening the door to you to see the heavens, to glow in the prophetic. Other desires you had that you couldn't or didn't know or tap into, the block is now gone. I'll put that on the screen. And then she adds, you are now free to fully explore your gifts and talents with God. No more restrictions. Wow.
it's
Nice.
interesting you say free to explore the gifts and talents that I already have. To me, that's interesting.
Wow.
Um, but yeah,
There's
and
a.
then
You go ahead. Go ahead.
uh, one of the other possible meanings for the name Tyler, it was doorkeeper of a tavern or an inn, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Can I share some particulars about my life and testimony.
That's fine.
Okay, so for almost 15 years, I was addicted to pornography. And it wasn't until fairly recently that I discovered / it was a revelation to me that alcohol, which, I mean, at a tavern or an inn, you're going to have alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what a tavern is. For
Right.
one, it's essentially a bar. And it wasn't until recently that like the Lord gave me a revelation that alcohol kind of intensified that desire. To be blunt, it made me horny. And so with Tyler being the force of darkness, to me it almost represents or reinforces that restriction I need to place on my consumption of alcohol too. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I might be digging a little deep into it. I don't know.
Possibly. I don't know. I think that addiction is the desire for connection. Like wanting to connect at a higher level, and people are trying to find it through things that are not authentic. And that's like a counterfeit, right? A counterfeit connection. And I think that the brick wall that Tyler, the character, the enemy, presents, trying to block that connection, the hindrance of connection. For me, in my journey, the need and desire for connection is huge. And I need it with my relationship with God. I need it with my wife, my family, my daughter. I want it to connect with the desires of my heart. And actually, in 2011, I was given a prophetic word, which I've dubbed the connection word. And it starts off with the guy who, I don't even know his name, who was speaking to me. He was reading my mail years in advance about the connecting with Father, where I know him as a father and I am as a son. And then connection with family in the areas I struggled with. But because of that struggle, he healed those things and brought connection. And then he says, because of that, I got the connections with the desires of my heart. And I look at the character of Tyler as a hindrance of connection. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? Wow.
Yeah, because it wasn't until after the force of darkness in Tyler was defeated that the voice spoke that the character Jonathan recognized that heaven was within him. So that connection's always been there, but it wasn't until the force of darkness was defeated that he recognized that the connection is there already.
You know what it makes me
not
think?
Something to be strived after.
Striving, yeah, right. Because like if you want to strive, you're pushing against the wall all over again. But I just realized in your story the true man of Tyler was inside. He was crying out for healing, for help, and that was your character recognizing to make that connection. You could see deep into that person who was being a vessel of the enemy. Go ahead. What is it?
In the last story, Oceans Among Us.
Yes.
The character Jonathan, or I think it was the angel told Jonathan that he would see the lights in other people and celebrate their desires and their destiny, essentially.
Wow, that's cool.
And then at the end of Oceans Among Us, Jonathan was looking around at his teammates after being revived, and he's like, I see your lights. There's more. And then the one of the teammates was like, yeah, man, I can see that.
Great. Wow. Perfect. Hey, guys in the chat, or if you are in there, add some more comments or ask a question. This has been really good, and thank you very much for looking up Tyler. Everyone just rose to the occasion and found out this amazing revelation while we're going in the show. This is amazing. So I know that Jenny's there, Hannah is there, Alisha and Kylie, others are there, Mike's there. But thank you very much for all your comments. Keep them coming. So
I wonder if Hannah has any questions.
Well, let's find out. We'll wait for her, of course. I think that this story also talks about a test. What are you being tested over?
I'm not sure. It might have something to do with work. Where I'm working currently, my coworkers, how to put it nicely.
Be careful.
Many of them are such where every other word is an F-bomb. And that doesn't make them bad people.
Mm-hmm.
But the circumstances in which they live, in which they've been raised, in which they've matured, have made it almost a way of life, a rite of passage almost, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And in most of them, like to me, cussing in general doesn't make any sense. It never has. Even when I get angry or mad or whatever, like to me, it just doesn't compute.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's from my upbringing from like within the church as a child. Like, I don't know if that's related to it, if it's just the hand of God on my life for my entire life. I honestly don't know. I tend to lean towards the latter. But even with my coworkers, when they say those words, there's a search and a desire for more than what they're experiencing in life. And I don't know how to address it with them because they don't even recognize it. It's like you can't free someone from prison if they don't recognize that they're in prison.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're all in prison or bondage,
Mm-hmm.
but they're in a place that they need to get out of, and they don't recognize they need to get out of it.
Yeah.
And they're searching for some higher, I don't want to say some higher being, because consciously I don't think they are. Consciously they're all living life and they believe what they believe, and they're just going to keep doing what they've always done. But
I'd like to respond to that. So the word repentance means to return to the penthouse. And a penthouse is at the top of a building. And so you only will go there if you think you can live a better life there. And so like the goodness of God brings men to repent. It's not the judgment or the religious spirit where, oh, you're a sinner. It's the goodness of God. And God looks at his creation and loves them and says, you're my child, my son, or my daughter. And, you know, when you're talking about swearing, I remember reading in a book by Robert Liardon called God's Generals. And it's a historical book about different revivalists in the early 1900s. In the Welsh revival, if I remember correctly, there were all these hardened men who were miners, and they would be mining coal or doing something, and they were like the salt of the earth. They were, you know, beating and violent and swearing all the time, and they would take their donkeys and their animals, and they would beat them, and they would use swear words and foul language to command the animals to do their work. But the revival hit so powerfully in that whole land that they were broken by the love of God, that they stopped swearing. And the animals didn't know what to do to respond because they were so trained by the foul language. But the thing is that it was the men weren't changed by convincing arguments or
Right.
debate. They were encountering the presence and the love of God. So I would recommend to you, Jonathan, is show, not tell, in your community. Is let the glory in your heart emanate out, and without saying one word, right? There's an exercise that we learned at a church in Los Angeles called how to breathe in the glory. So it's like this practical application. So imagine that heaven is in front of you, or around you. The Bible says that our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. A Jewish way of looking at it, or Aramaic way, according to what this guy was teaching, is my Father who is close to me as the air that I breathe. So the idea is like you practically step forward in your chair, and you inhale, and you imagine inhaling the heaven's glory, right? Then you step back and you release it. We did this with a group of about 20 or 30 people in the church building. This is not New Age, okay, guys? This is
Right.
this is operating in the glorious places. We started doing that, and after 5 minutes of going in and out of inhaling the presence of God and releasing it, oh my goodness, you could feel the goosebumps and all the presence of God all over this place. It was radical. It was powerful. So I need to practice that more often. I'm just remembering this from years ago. But if you were to do that silently, with no words, in your workplace, and you literally change the atmosphere, right? You can change the atmosphere by going into the glory, taking it in by faith, and then releasing it into the natural realm, right? This is biblical, guys, just so you know. Like, for example, when in the Old Testament they were dedicating the temple, the glory of God came and the priests could not stand. And they acted like they fell down drunk. That's in the Bible, guys. So the glory and the presence of God is a heavy weight, and you can do that. And so just like with these stories, these are meant to be experienced. They're experiential encounters. So Jonathan, you can be a vessel of encounter, not saying one word, but coming up and showing up. Well, our pastor in LA, Pastor Tom Wright, likes to say, I'm here. Now, what if you were to do that without speaking, and you release the glory and say, I'm here, just by showing up? What would happen? Just ponder that, really. I love what Hannah had made a comment. Gotta release that power, boy. Wow, that's cute. Wow. Well, are you enjoying your story? Is it feeling? It feels a lot better now, because I was like a little worried, to be honest. Like, this is going to be a demonically possessed guy getting deliverance. I wonder how this show's going to go. But it turned out to be a revelation of, like, this is the contradiction you're facing from your first story. And now you know what to do about the contradiction, right? This is practical. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
I love it. Wow.
That was an awesome story, honestly. Like you had said, spooky, and like it was, to me, it wasn't spooky, because like I love stories.
Yeah.
I love to read, like, even fictional stories. I loved it growing up. So any story kind of fits the bill pretty much. Like, to me, there's not really a spooky story. It was awesome.
Cool. Thanks, man. Wow. So if you were to sum up, what would be the application of this story for you? Like, how would you apply it? What would you put it in words, if you can?
Words, if I can. Really, probably the big thing is just continue to recognize who I am in Christ, the power he's given me, and to operate in that, and to be an example, not just for unbelievers, but even for other believers, just as Christ was an example for us of like love. And that was another thing I was journaling earlier before the show, was love, because I want to love like Jesus loves. I want to love like he loved in the Bible. And so I was asking him how to do that, and like just love, because love is action. It's not a feeling. You can experience feelings of love as you're acting it out, but it's like you show your love by loving. Loving is an action word. Just like faith, it's a show me your faith without your works, and I'll show you my faith by my works. You can't show faith without works.
Wow.
But at the same time, if you get too stuck up in works, then you're kind of stepping outside of faith.
Yeah. Also, religious spirit can make you strive in works.
Yeah.
Like I was part of an unhealthy church years ago where the religious spirit, like, you have to show me faith. You have to show me faith. Come on, man, give me some faith. And the people there didn't know what to do with me. I was a broken person, and they had no clue how to handle a brokenness. And so they said that your worth spiritually was how much faith can you have. And it became a toxic thing. It wasn't like an authentic, genuine. It was performance faith, if that makes sense. So yeah, you don't want to have works end up in a ditch of destruction. You don't want unbelief either, and passivity, right? You want to pursue the dreams that God has given you with active hearts. If you are single, go date. If you want a job, apply for it. If you want to be a creative person, paint the painting, write the book, make the film. You just can't sit back and go, okay, God, I'm waiting for you to move. It's a dance. You have to move with him, right? So yeah, I want to acknowledge my daughter Kylie. She has said a couple comments, which is a great story, and she wants people to know that I do dream interpretation. And Kylie says that I taught her that a car in a dream means life and job. So thank you, Kylie, very much for your input. Thank you very much for your support. So Jonathan, what would you tell people who've never heard of prophetic storytelling, and how would you communicate that they need to get a story too?
Well, say that again.
So how would you encourage people to know what prophetic storytelling is, and how would you encourage them to get their own story? Like, what would you say?
I would explain it. Man, I've tried explaining it before, and it wasn't received well. So, and I know my way of explaining things is sometimes I think differently, so that's another way I'm a black sheep. But like, to me, it clarifies some things that I'm going through in my actual life, because I understand that it is to be understood symbolically. I don't know if I can go into any more depth than that, but it's a symbolic story of a character where you can either accept it or deny it, but the application still has to be made. If you choose to accept this story, you still have to apply it in order for it to make a difference in your life.
Wow, cool. Thank you, guys. Wow. Well, thank you, Jonathan. We're an hour in now, and I want to say thank you to everyone in the audience, in the chat. Thank you for watching tonight. Like I said before, that we still have a Christmas special that will end at the end of December for a buy one, get one free prophetic story for $145. And it's in the description below, or you can go to our website at legendsofthewind.com into the story, or look for the product Become a Legend. And I want to thank you for all your participation. Hannah, thank you for your encouragement. Kylie, thank you for your involvement and encouragement. Jen, thank you. Everybody, thank you so much. Now, If you want to reach me on email, you can find me at support@legendsofthewind.com, and you can also contact us through our website. So, guys, Jonathan, thank you once again for being a fantastic guest. And by the way, guys, if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We want to have the YouTube algorithm give us more visibility. Share this video out to everyone that you know and have them comment in the comments below. Jonathan, thanks again for, I always enjoy talking with you. I always appreciate your heart and the enthusiasm you bring, and also the stories that God's giving you are blowing my mind too, because I'm only on the receiving end. I'm a conduit, and when I think about the destination and the trajectory that you have with Him, it's fantastic. There's great things coming for you, even greater things ahead.
I am excited, and you are an excellent storyteller, Jurri.
Wow, thank you.
And the way you incorporate the interpretation and application aspects of the story that you're able to be a conduit for it's incredible.
Wow.
So thank you.
Thank you, man. Well, guys, I think that we've exhausted this story. I'm sure there's more revelations to unfold for Jonathan as he ponders this. Don't hang up, Jonathan. Guys, welcome. Thank you very much for being part of the show tonight, for watching us, and we'll see you on the next broadcast on Monday. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Here we go.